Yeah, so welcome everybody to the podcast Roll Right In. Today with our friend and partner, the Professor Andy. Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Andy.
Good morning. Good to having me.
Just a short introduction. Andy is, since 2005, he's a professor for entrepreneurial management at the Universität in Chur, Switzerland. He's not only a teacher at university and several MBA programs, but also a researcher. He has written more than 60 papers focusing innovation management, entrepreneurship, and robotics. Yeah, he has won 3 international Best Paper Awards. He has an MBA and a PhD of University of St. Gallen. In parallel, he even longer, since the 90s, he's a startup coach at several universities and the ETH. During the same time, he has co-founded 7 startups in the software space, 4 exited and 1 failure. Before all that, Andy was at the jazz school playing the piano. Till today, he plays the bass in 2 jazz combos. Not bad, huh?
Mm,
Pretty good CV.
yeah, thank you so much. Um, I think what you didn't mention was that I have 4 kids.
And
So
two
this,
wives.
yeah, genau. These 4 kids is the other 50% of my CV, I think.
Yeah, and you're also the president of the church in
Not the
Rorschach.
president. No. I'm a member of the board.
And you are the organizer of the biggest Halloween party in Rorschach ever.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But it's a long time ago.
And
But we will
talk,
do this year. But it's funny because we do this year. We do it again. It's a kind of fondue Halloween party. What we do, yeah, next Monday.
are you invited, Luki?
No, I didn't receive anything yet. Yeah.
It's only for
So
locals. I'm
I
so
think I'm
sorry.
not, I'm sure I'm invited, but I haven't checked my email. I'm sorry. Huh?
Only for locals. I'm so sorry.
What exactly did you get the awards for?
So these are research papers on research conferences. Then normally you have a topic that you write on, and then the papers or the authors are nominated for paper awards, and then often we have some a dinner. It's like a welcome dinner on one evening, and then they announce which paper was the best of the whole conference. Yes, and we were awarded 3 times already. One time it was in Maui, Hawaii. It was a paper on R&D management for SMEs. Then the second was a paper that we wrote on technology-related diversification that was awarded in Paris. That was a conference in Paris. And the third one was a paper on IoT business models, and that was awarded, I think that was in Florence, in Italy.
That's cool, huh?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Well, you
But
can
that's
see the awards in the background in your office.
no, this is my jazz band. Jazz means jazz im Stall. So this is the logo of my jazz band. Or of one of these 2 jazz bands. Yeah.
So let's, what's interesting is that the whole knowledge you have about entrepreneurship. And that reminds me of a business event I was invited, and in the first row, you had the special guests, a bunch of CEOs of big Swiss companies. On stage, the CEO of SBB, the Swiss Federal Rail Company, and he goes like, so he goes to the first row. He goes like, you and me, we are so important entrepreneurs. We have a big big job to do here. And then the guy next to me, a banker, was talking to himself, saying, "None of you guys is an entrepreneur."
Mhm.
So, what is an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur is not a manager at the first point, I think. Of course, this is bullshit when a CEO is, as it depends. When the CEO is the founder of the company,
Like Elon.
yeah, of course, then he is an entrepreneur and the CEO, but normally managers are managers and entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs. And what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person, it's a human being, and but what they do, they are always pursuing opportunities regardless the resources under control. And this is the difference to a manager, because managers, they have resources under control. They have to manage resources. Entrepreneurs don't care about resources because when they start a business, they do not have the resources and they take tons of risks. And managers don't take tons of risks. They are risk averse, so they don't like risks. And the entrepreneur is pursuing these opportunities and also the risks. So this is a big difference. And a colleague of ours, in my research community, is Sarah Saraswati, and she said the difference of an entrepreneur and a manager is the way of thinking, of how to solve problems, and she created the term effectuation. Effectuation means that you want to be effective. And the other thinking that managers normally has is transactional thinking. So they manage transactions like business administration. It's an administrative process, and it's also a transactional thinking. And what entrepreneurs do, they want to be effective in the sense of solving a problem.
So,
And, yeah.
so I can remember having, being part of a discussion where somebody also was talking, the difference between, so among entrepreneurs, that there also are differences. And I think, when you have, when you're young at university and you want to start a company, you have a co-founder. What are the points that I have to think of, that I can myself, that I can give me a profile, what kind of entrepreneur I am.
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends first in which area we're talking about. So when you are in India, for example, then probably the question of becoming self-employed would be more the necessity. It's not the business opportunity that you're pursuing. Then it's more or less the necessity that you have to become an entrepreneur because you have no other alternative. You will suffer hunger, or you become an entrepreneur. We have a lot of immigrants also in Europe. They go this way because they say that the only way to be to have an opportunity in Europe as a Afghanistan or Syrian or from Eritrea is that they start their own business, because they wouldn't be hired by Swiss companies.
Or like, for instance, south of Italy or on Sicily, there was a bunch of people that started their own business and they're very well organized.
Yeah,
They call it the mafia.
that's a
They're
different.
also entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that is the kind of family founded company. So we have also entrepreneurs. They become entrepreneur to get food on the table for the family. This is a kind of traditional approach that you say, okay, I become an entrepreneur that I can bring the food on the table for my family and also for the family as for the grandchildren, for the children and the grandchildren later on. So this is kind of traditional thinking. And then we have also entrepreneurs. They become entrepreneurs because they want to have this kind of freedom, lifestyle that you say, I don't want to be hired by a company that I have to work from 8 to 5, so that you have the possibility to find your own work-life integration with the job in your company. Like Lucky is one of these guys. I think he founded his company to be self-employed and to decide by himself when he's working, what he's working, where he's working, with whom he's working, that kind of entrepreneurs. And then we have also entrepreneurs, they become self-employed because of status. So let's say lawyers. Lawyers, at the end of the day, they are self-employed. They have their own law firm. Often in Europe they are partners, so they get together and they found a company to provide these legal services. And this is not because they want to have this lifestyle or family traditional approach or necessity. There it's the status that you can say, okay, now I'm a lawyer in my own law firm, I'm a partner in my own law firm. That's why often they use their own names for the name of the companies, often the names of the founders of these law firms. And then we talk about this, it's not my quote, it's Schumpeter's quote, the real entrepreneurs. So these kind of entrepreneurs that really provide value add for the whole society, that not only for the company or for the family or for this personal status, but they create wealth for an economy or for society. And these growth entrepreneurs, their motive is to self-efficiency. So they want to, because they know that with their personality, they can change something. They can solve a problem that is bigger. They can solve a problem that a lot of people has. And so they can provide solutions to that problem that many people have. And with that problem solution, they generate wealth for the society.
You have an example of this entrepreneur?
Yes, I would say Hilton is one of these guys. Hilton, he was a hotel. He founded a hotel. So he started being a hotel manager, if you want so. But then he said, why should I only provide one hotel for 20 people? I could provide maybe a second hotel, and then we do something other. When you have 2 or 3 hotels, then you start thinking about, okay, how could we use, for example, technologies that we become more efficient in our hotel chain, And he was the first who had mini bars in the hotels. He was the first who had a telephone in the hotel room, ice machines, stuff like that. He invented a lot of things that today it's common sense that hotels provide these kind of services. But that was him who thought to bring new services and new kind of infrastructures into these hotels, and then he started to building a chain, Or Henry Ford as well, he was thinking about, because in the days when Henry Ford started building cars, that was they were manufactured like watches. They were manufactured like watches, so really in workshops. And then he said, we should build a car that every American can buy because it's affordable for them, because the cars were so expensive, only rich people could buy cars. He said, we have to build a car that everybody is affordable for everybody, and that it is so easy to drive and to maintain that also everybody can drive with such a car. And then they started thinking about what, they said, we cannot build this car in workshops, so we have to build them. Jetzt müsst ihr wissen, was Flussfertigung heißt,
That's the
oder?
serial production.
Yeah, probably. Okay, exactly. Serial production. And what they then did, because in Cincinnati they had already a serial production for slaughtering houses of pigs. No, slaughtering houses of pigs. So these pigs were slaughtered in a serial production, And then he said, so how they slaughter these pigs, we should build a car. So on this station, we do only the wheels. Here we do only
Very nice example.
the motoring and so on. And you know, that kind of thinking, but you know, back to Henry Ford, what he makes him as a growth entrepreneur, that he said, okay, getting from A to B is a big problem for everybody. So this is really a common problem. It's frequent. It's mandatory. And then he said, okay, let's see how we can solve that problem for many people. And that brought out the Model T from Ford, and that was one of the first mass consumer products worldwide. You know.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a core the core momentum in the economy, you know, what entrepreneurs is concerned, right?
Yes, because also McDonald's, when McDonald's would say, okay, I make one diner or one grill, where you can buy burgers, then McDonald's would be a nobody, you know. As soon as he said, okay, but a lot of people have that problem that they want to have fast food in a high quality, or in the same quality, not in high quality, but in the same quality. So that when you travel to Seattle, that you can have a burger and you know it tastes the same as when you drive to Florida or to West Coast in a city and you go to a burger and you know, it's the same cost, it's the same quality, it's the same look and feel of the grill.
They call this when I'm right, signaling, and that what, you know, all this signaling approach was then copied by many other companies also, like Starbucks. It's also interesting, WebEx just told us that in 5 minutes it's over because it's a free version. So I suggest we just stop now and we start a new meeting, okay? Thank you very much for you know, bring in more clarification what an entrepreneur is. So just to sum up, for the first is somebody that has no job and no support, social support, and is forced to take care about her or himself and start, you know, making business to make money, right? The second is our friends, for instance, our friends in Italy. You have a family, a tradition that you work in the business of your family. Then the third are all these guys like doctors, lawyers, consultants, and so on, that these guys are mostly selling their time, okay? And then if we want to listen to Schumpeter, which is probably not such a bad idea, the real shit are what they are called, these entrepreneurs, the Elons and Fords of this world.
Growth oriented.
Exactly. So yeah, that brings me to another situation at the university, namely we had this lecture with this professor for sociology. Sociology? How do you say that? How do you spell that? Sociology. Sociology.
Sociology.
Sociology. Yeah, so it was about that, like more than 99% of the people are not wealthy, whatever. And this comes from the fact that many kids follow the steps, the path of their parents. So they choose a similar job in this direction, and they choose a similar way to live, how they live their lives. Okay. And then he goes, there are just two ways to get rich. Either, okay, he back then he said two, and he said either you marry a rich man or a rich woman, or you become an entrepreneur. And now the question is, how, when you become an entrepreneur, how can you become rich?
So first of all, the third possibility is that you get rich by birth. So because your daddy is rich, and then you will be rich because your daddy was rich, or your grandfather was already rich.
But that doesn't count.
You know, to be rich is really relative. So, but when we talk about becoming millionaires or billionaires, yes, then of course you cannot become a billionaire when you choose lifestyle entrepreneur, when you choose this traditional kind of way. So, you know, when you start a restaurant, when you start a consulting company, whatever, because there you have always to work for the money. So chargeable hours is a bad business model to get rich. So that when you want to get rich in the sense of becoming a millionaire or billionaire, then you need to have a solution that is scalable.
But hang
So
on, hang on. There is the so-called Charles Schwab brings that out. The so-called modern wealth survey, and they say that they always ask people, what do you think wealthy people? What kind of what does mean wealthy? And then people say an amount that changes over time. At the moment, 22 in the United States, it's 2.2 million wealth.
Mhm.
That's interesting. USA, by the way, they have the highest perception what wealth does mean. For instance, in Europe, it's less than 50. It's much lower. So, in all over the world, it's around something with 1 million. Okay,
Mhm.
what wealth does mean. So,
Okay, but you can,
for the example, like the kebab stand, I can remember there was a very famous kebab stand in Zurich. It was called something with blue. Can you remember? Anyway, he then also built a chain. So
yeah.
that would then become a wealthy person.
Of course, you can get 1 million as a consultant or a lawyer or as a doctor in your own practice. Of course, you can get 1 million when you are a very good graphic designer and you can sell your hours very expensive. Yes, in that sense, then you can get rich also with the business that is not growing and that it's not solving a common problem. But if you really want to become a Hilton, a Ford, a Würth, a Zuckerberg, and all these guys, then you need to have a really big problem that is very common, that a lot of people have that problem. You solve a problem that is mandatory, that is really frequent, and then the solution has to be scalable. That means you have to have a product that you can produce in a serial production, like the Model T from Ford, or that the services at Hilton, because all these services were so standardized in the whole chain that the cost of the unit became lower and lower and lower, so that you get the better margin. The price is fixed by the market, and when you can provide these services to a lower costs, then you have a margin, and if you multiply by 1,000 hotels, then you get rich also with services. And of course now you can scale with software. Software is a beautiful thing to scale, because you have the cost once when you code the software, and then you get the money multiplied by X time users pay for that code.
That brings us to the StudioAlpha approach. So if these startups that apply for StudioAlpha for this accelerator, what a question that comes up from time to time is, what do we have to do as a company to really become one that is over average successful? Or in other terms, there's also a saying among VCs in the Silicon Valley that you don't have to, when you invest, if you want to have a company that outperforms, you need to invest in 10. they say if you want to have 3 that outperform, you have to invest in 30. So what happens to these 27? What are they doing wrong?
Also, yes, I think first failure that you could do is that you not address really customer needs, you know. So I think there are a lot also software companies, they are building software, but they are not really solve the problem of the customer. So the job to be done of the customer. What is the customer's job to be done? And companies that are not successful, they address not really that needs. Second, it's just also something that you could do wrong is that you have the wrong user interface, also the kind of how it is to deal with. Maybe we're talking about WebEx and Zoom.
So UX. You're talking about UX.
Yeah, it's UI. UX is more. UX is viability, feasibility, and usability. And now we're talking about the usability. So when it's not usable, maybe it's a great software, great codes, great algorithms, work very efficient and nice performance, but the kind how it's to interact for me as a user with this code.
For instance, when you have a Tesla, and before you were a fan of Volkswagen, but when you want, you know, if you sit into a Tesla, the way you can punch in the direction where you want to go, and then you see the map, you know, in how that works, how that is easy to handle compared with what Volkswagen offers the driver. You know, that's a good example how you make the difference in terms of UX, right?
Maybe the software of the Volkswagen navigation tool is much better. Maybe they have better data. Maybe it's better to maybe.
Sorry, I doubt, because Tesla is using Google, right?
Yeah, but in the back end, you know, that's what I mean.
I still doubt, but yeah, go ahead.
So okay, let's take about that problem. I have to navigate from A to B, and I need a tool that helps me to navigate from A to B. And now, first of all, you have to address this problem. If you address a problem that is not a problem, then you fail. Secondly, if you have not the right user interface, you know, the kind of you know how it looks and feels like, then you can fail as well. And the third failure is that you invest too less money into the marketing and the distribution of your solution. A lot of software companies focus on the software, focus on the technology, focus on the functionalities, but do not focus on the customer needs, do not focus on the UI, and do not focus on spending a lot of money to promote your software. So nobody knows that you have a beautiful software. Maybe you have a perfect software, it's working perfectly, it's fitting with the problem solution, but you spend the whole money in the engineering and not in the marketing and in the distribution, and then as well you cannot grow.
Yeah, very quickly also you realize that if the help desk, the customer support is not well done, so if you have to wait, you don't know, is there somebody answering me? You know, to me that's always the first signal that the software company is you know, is doing something wrong at the moment, at least, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but first of all you have to know about that software, you know. That's before the problem with after sales services or with customer support. I think first you have to know that there is a software, and you know we have, I don't know, 300 hours YouTube videos per minute today that are uploaded. Also per minute 300 hours of videos. So there's it's immense big amount of information that is hitting now on our potential customers.
Yeah, but when I take a look at my son, they really need to upload 300 hours per hour. I don't know how.
300 hours uploaded per minute, you know.
Yeah, that's what
who will watch all that?
Able to watch.
Yeah, who will watch that, you know?
He watched 2 things at the same time.
Yeah, Okay.
See,
Okay.
he watched YouTube on the TV and YouTube on his mobile phone.
Okay, let me calculate. You need to look 80,000 videos at the same time.
Yeah, he will
Then you
get
can
there. He's young. He will
80,000
get
videos
there.
at the same time. Then you can collect all informations that are on YouTube only. So I think this is really the issue, you know. And of course, if you ask what are software doing that are successful, I think they are really human-centered. They focus 100% on the customer's needs. They talk a lot with customers, so probably customers are involved in the development of the software. It's not the engineers who develop the software, it's the customer who says, now I need this, and I need the button there, and I need whatever. So they talk also about UI, so the user is telling you what is the UI should look like. And of course, they spend a lot of money for promoting and marketing the software.
So Andy, time is up so far. I have another question before we're done. Why are you part of the StudioAlpha? Obviously, when I go back to your CV, you have enough to do in your life, inclusive to church.
As first of all, it sounds like fun. It sounds like fun because you two guys are
Getting rich. Getting rich sounds like fun, yeah.
No. It's not. It's really like, you know, when you spend lifetime, where do you want to spend this time? Do you want to spend it with assholes or with people that you like? You know, and StudioAlpha is for the moment a perfect match in the sense of makes fun. You know, so I think this is one very important reason. But of course, my experience, as you mentioned when you presented my curriculum vitae, I was mostly 20 years in startup coaching. So I did a lot of startup coachings in incubators. Also Swiss incubators that provide programs for such university startups. And what I realized is really also that we help them. It's like a sensibilization for entrepreneurship. It's also finding a problem solution fit together with the startups, and then they have to pitch for a jury. But then we say goodbye to these people, and then there's a big gap between having a problem solution fit and seed funding or even a Series A. So that's like a vacuum in Europe. Also in Switzerland, I know it from personal, but what I hear from colleagues from other countries in Europe.
Their statistics, they show that it's all of Europe. It's less in the States, but especially the amount of money. You know, in other words, there are many people or organizations that they want to do this, but the amounts of money you get per deal is too small. So
Yeah.
in a whole, there is not enough money for this stage.
And that was frustrating for me, you know, that you work for 4 months with the team on an idea, and then you have to tell them, okay, and now I don't know what, look for family, friends, and fools who give you money that you can get to the next step. And I think this is what for me is so inspiring also with StudioAlpha, that we say, okay, we bring them, as we close that gap between the idea and the first funding round. And of course, we leave them not alone. So in that sense, we are a studio that we also provide our experience to the startups, that we really can help them to. So it's the same kind of work that I did
Get
before
rich.
in newspapers, but now it's more concrete. It's really to bring them to the seed or the Series A funding round. And yeah, I'm looking forward that we could do that. And I think also that we really close a gap. And back to the question of entrepreneurship, we as entrepreneurs as well, because this is an entrepreneurial approach, because we say this is a problem that a lot of startups have. That's not a problem of one startup or 10 startups. It's really a problem that many startups have. And so it's a big problem. It's mandatory. It's frequent. So also next year, startups will have that problem. Also in 10 years, startups will have that problem. And yeah, and I think we should solve that problem as a company or it's as a studio, and not with public funding. You know.
So we also solve this problem as entrepreneur, because this gap what you're talking about, that's where for an investor it is the highest risk. And that's, I think, that many investors that are not used to be entrepreneurs but bankers or consultants, they prefer to invest in a later stage when when the highest risk is taken away, right? But I think it's also what you say, it's fun. It's exactly this period of time when a founding team is just getting started. That's the moment where it's the most exciting to prove the pudding, right? To prove that this team and their ideas can reach a market and can start a real company.
There's a parallel to innovation, because in innovation you have the same. When you have an idea for an innovation in an existing company, the risk is the highest possible. Okay, so because it's just an idea, you don't know, is it feasible? You don't know, is it usable? You don't know, is it viable? So you don't know nothing at the beginning of when you have an idea for an innovation. And what Rob Cooper and his colleague Kleinschmidt proved in a lot of empirical studies, that he said, when you have a process, when you have an innovation process that is managed from the idea to the innovation at the end that is implemented in the market, this process helps you to reduce the risks. So the more you do in this process, the more analyses you do, the more interviews you do with customers, that you do prototyping, testing, and so on and so forth, the risk is getting lower. The costs are rising, because an idea is worth nothing. An idea is an idea, nobody would pay money for an idea. But when you're close to the implementation of the innovation, then it becomes a value, because you had produced a lot of costs already. And so when you say, okay, now the uncertainty is lowering down, the costs of the innovation is rising, but the risk stays at the same level. So this is kind of risk management. And what we do with StudioAlpha is, in a theoretical way, we do risk management in the sense that we select these kinds of cases that has the chance to get to Series A, B, C, and so on and so forth. And to do so, we need a process, and we are part of this process. And there we need methods and tools to find out which one is successful, which one is not successful. And so, yeah, it's a perfect match.
Exactly. That's a good finish line. Thank you very much, Zilti, for your time. And for everybody who's watching this clip, please thumbs up, tell your friends, and whenever you see a founding team, tell them to apply to StudioAlpha.capital. See you.
See you. Bye-bye.